All right, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Fireside Chat, Cybersecurity in 2021. My name is Nate Hinman. I'm joined here with Luis Delabarre from Capgemini. We are going to discuss some trends in 2021 regarding cybersecurity, AI integration, zero trust, and a little bit more than that as well. So without further ado, Luis, do you want to give a quick introduction as to what you do at Capgemini and kind of what some of your responsibilities are?
Yes, of course, Nate. I'm Luis Delabarre. I'm the global CTIO for cybersecurity. I'm actually working in the group since more than 3 years after a long career in cybersecurity. My main role is about the portfolio. So I'm supposed to work to define the portfolio from a technical standpoint. And the other responsibility is about innovation. So we're trying to guess what will be the next technology or the new technology that we need to leverage to provide the best security as we can to our customers.
Fantastic. And as a quick intro for myself, my name is Nate Hinman. I'm one of the directors at Plug and Play, covering our enterprise tech program. We focus on several different technologies. Cybersecurity is definitely one of them. Artificial intelligence, machine learning are also high up on our priority list. Plug and Play is a global innovation platform, and what we do is connect Fortune 1000 organizations to emerging startups with technologies relevant for their specific industry. So think of us as sort of a matchmaker, finding best of breed emerging solutions for various use cases within our corporate partner network, of which we have over 400 Fortune 1000 organizations in our network. So got the introductions out of the way. Luis, thanks so much for joining. I've got a bunch of questions for you. You're very knowledgeable in the space, so thought we would just kick it off, keep it casual. And so to get to the questions, I guess, first of all, what are some of the challenges in regards to innovation across the organization that you face?
It's a pretty interesting question about innovation. We did a survey last year with our customers, and we understood that one of the main problems for our customers is to scale. Usually, they are very interesting to test a new technology, new, I would say, use case of AI. So they focus mainly on the technology itself, and maybe forgetting sometimes the next action, I'll say, or the next step. For example, how to scale, what will be the benefits for the business, what is the value proposition with this innovation, I would say. So usually our customers are focusing, as I said, only on the technology, and they just forget about how to scale for the business or for the group itself, I mean, the enterprise itself.
Yeah, we see that a lot. I mean, we see a lot of our corporate partners, you know, they see a really interesting new tool that, you know, has all the promise in the world, but when it actually comes to implementation across a global organization, there are definitely some roadblocks there. And especially when you're working with an early stage company that might not have, you know, the team size and capability to do an implementation across a global organization. So
yeah. This is what we call usually the POC or the POC effect. People are focusing on the proof of concept. They find usually a good idea, you know, for this POC. Once the POC is done, what's next? So that's a real problem. And usually it could be also a problem with the lack of governance. I mean, focusing on the innovation itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and then unfortunately, these POCs can be pretty crippling for some of these early stage companies. So there needs to be a better method of doing POCs and making sure that it's not just wasting a 5-person team's time, because that can be crippling for a emerging company.
Indeed.
Yeah. So when it comes to persuading individuals on your team to do POCs and take risks, try new technologies, what are some of the techniques that you use to kind of get them on board with trying out new solutions? Everyone is kind of reluctant to change, even though there might be a better solution out there. They're happy with what they're using, and the implementation process can be pretty daunting. And so even though the tool could be 100 times better, they're not necessarily gonna want to change. So how do you persuade individuals on your team to take a risk and try new technology?
I think, leveraging the survey we did last year, we decided to create a program, and usually we call it co-innovation program because we want to co-innovate with our customers. Of course, we are innovated in Capgemini for our own usage, but mainly we prefer to have this co-innovation with our customers. So it's a program, it's a 5-step program. And because we believe that this innovation should be governed with the steerco, and this 5-step program is starting with ideation. It's very important to start with what we want to achieve, what is the objective of this innovation. So it could be connected to business, it could be connected to improving the efficiency of a process in the company, it could be, why not, improving the culture or the mindset of people in the company. Could be different type of I would say objective to reach. And once we have this objective set and defined, usually we kick off, and then we have milestone, with the steerco and the different stakeholders of this program. And of course, the ideal situation or proposition will be at the end of this program to have a product or a solution or a service provided to the customer or the customer of our customers, if it's something related to the business. So again, it's more a methodology than just technology or whatever. We prefer to help our customers in this program, and that's why we say co-innovation.
Sure. Innovation in our world, as a startup accelerator, typically means finding that new tool that's going to revolutionize some sort of, aspect within the organization. Are you guys looking at early stage companies to implement within your customer base, or are you helping them build out their own solutions internally?
It depends on the topic itself.
Yeah.
In the cybersecurity space, of course, there are mainstream topic where usually large enterprise, large providers or vendors are able to provide us good solutions for our customers. But there are very specific domain where innovation or startups are very important.
Yeah.
I would mention 1 or 2 domain where we work with startup, with a startup ecosystem, I would say. For example, differential privacy. For example, if you want to leverage artificial intelligence, but still preserving the privacy of your user or your customer, that's quite interesting to leverage new solutions like differential privacy. But there are also other topics like serverless technology. If you want to protect your application in a serverless architecture in the cloud, in the public cloud, very often I would say classical conventional solutions are not suitable or are not, I would say, fit for this purpose. So again, there are some very specific topic in cyber where working with a startup ecosystem makes sense.
Got it. Okay, so next question. Cybersecurity, AI integration, and zero trust are trends that I'm sure you're heavily focused on. How do you foresee AI and zero trust evolving over the next few years, especially in regards to cybersecurity?
For example, for AI, in cyber, usually we try to have 2 different purposes. The first one is about detection. You know that in cybersecurity, detection, I would say efficiency is very key. We need to be efficient to detect any malicious behavior, any type of attack, and so on. And the conventional solutions we already have in our systems are not very efficient to detect new type of attack. And AI is maybe the best solution to detect such attack, because when we say AI, we are mainly talking about machine learning and even more precisely unsupervised machine learning. And this is where AI and unsupervised machine learning will help us to detect any anomaly, any deviation compared to the normal behavior. So that's one of the main, I would say, usage or use case of AI in cybersecurity. The other one is more at the, I would say, R&D stage. You know that we have different security operations center across the globe, and we have analysts that are, I would say, tackling the incidents of our customers. And one of the I would say good topic where AI could be interesting is what we call cognitive automation. So it's the decision-making process. Our analysts need to take decision 100 times a day. How we can augment the analyst in order to take the right decision. Of course, quickly. We don't have hours to take such a decision. So he has to be efficient in the quality of the decision, but also in the, I would say we have to be compliant with the SLA with our customers. So cognitive automation is quite interesting, where maybe, because as I said, it's still R&D stage, maybe AI could help us. And you mentioned in your question, zero trust. I think one of the key topic nowadays in cyber. Of course, zero trust is not new. To be honest, it was invented by Jericho Forum in 2004, I guess, because at that time they were thinking about the end of the perimeter security, and they were right. We know that now perimeter is kind of a old-fashioned way to secure your assets. So zero trust is an approach. It's a very good approach. You trust no one, and you need to control the access to every information, and not once a day or once at the initial, the initial request. It's every time. You have access to the data today. Maybe tomorrow you won't have access to the data because the context had changed. So it's important to have the zero trust, I would say, approach to improve, I would say, the security of your system in the cloud, or even in your private cloud or on premise. So zero trust is not new. It's a very good approach. When I could also add the fact that there are some vendors that are providing, end-to-end solution to I would say, embrace the zero trust, because zero trust, as I said, is an approach. You can build your own. Why not? I would say systems to be compliant with this approach. But you could also, why not, buy a solution that is providing to you end-to-end solution. I'm talking about what we call SASE, so secure access and service edge. So this is a kind of new approach to give access to the user to your assets in a controlled way, and of course be, I would say, in line or align with the zero trust approach.
Got it. Yeah, we've seen SASE emerging as a pretty hot topic through several of our partners, and so I can just foresee it becoming much more popular going forward. How do you define goals regarding AI implementation, and what metrics do you put in place to ensure that these goals are being met?
Yeah, that's not easy. That's not easy. It's a real challenge. Before AI, usually we were, we were trying to find good detection rules, good technology in order to leverage the data we had. You collected all the data as much as you can, and then you are thinking about how can use this data to do detection, to provide detection, and to detect any, for example, malicious behavior. With AI, it's different. Whatever type of project with AI, we do the other way around. First, we set up or we define the use case. What are we trying to detect? What are we trying to achieve? So that's really key. The more time we spend on the use case definition, the better the result of your AI project or the KPI or how you measure the success of your AI. So we need to spend time at the beginning to define the use case, and of course, in front of the use case, the data set. What does it mean? You want to detect this, or you want to achieve this objective. What type of data you need to do so? So that's really important. If you do the other way around as we did in the past, you will fail. You will fail because, as I said with the POC at the beginning, you say, okay, I want to use AI because I know that AI could be the good answer to this problem. But if you're not defining the problem, you're not defining the use case, what are you trying to reach or to reach, and what type of data set or data you need to reach this objective, it will be a failure for sure. So once you have this data set and you have the use case defined, it's way easier to find the right algorithm, AI technology, because you have the data set and you have the objective. And of course, at the end, you will be able to measure the success of your AI, I would say, project.
Definitely. And kind of off script question here. Obviously AI is built with human inputs, and as human beings, we have natural biases. How do you prevent some of these biases from influencing the AI algorithms that you're using internally? Is there a safeguard that you can put in place to kind of separate human bias so that AI is truly AI and not necessarily just an extension of human thinking?
Again, it's a challenge. It's not easy to achieve this. The best way to avoid this problem is maybe, and that's what we are doing at Capgemini, is to build a team with different expertise. Mm-hmm. If you only focus on cybersecurity expertise, of course you miss you're lacking the expertise of AI, the data scientists, and even why not people that are specialized in the ethics of your AI and all this aspect of the AI. So the best way to safeguard, as you said, our AI process or AI project is to combine all this, I would say, expertise and skill set together to make sure that we don't have a problem with the algorithm that would be in place, and also to make sure that we are not, because we are, for example, we are a cybersecurity expert, we have our own idea on how it should work. But of course, maybe some people with the AI expertise will say, hey guys, this is not the best way to proceed. You will have some problems. And even a third type of expertise, as I said, someone more about the, I would say, deontology, the ethics of the AI would help us say, your approach is not so good because you need to make sure that you have no bias in your AI. So it's not easy. We have a internal work group talking about that, because again, when you talk about AI, usually people are focusing on the technology, which platform, which type of algorithm, which libraries you want to use. Are you using Spark? Are you using PyTorch? Are you using other TensorFlow? Whatever. So, technology is so fascinating that people are trying to address this problem first. But you're perfectly right. It's not enough. You need to make sure that you combine together different set of expertise to avoid this trap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that makes total sense. So we've been talking a lot about AI integration into cybersecurity and how it's really opened a new frontier in threat detection, prevention, response, and remediation. Curious to hear, what are some of the ways that Capgemini has implemented AI into its current cybersecurity operations?
Yes, that one of the main reason we are adopting AI is because the threat landscape has changed a lot. We have more complexity to face. We have more volume of data to be addressed. So AI is one of the best technology for this. And to avoid or to answer to your point, fair point, we have implemented the AI at different stage of the security operation center. The first one is, of course, as everybody in cyber, when you buy a technology like an anti-malware, a cloud security product, whatever, all vendors are leveraging AI. So it's kind of black box where you have AI embedded and you leverage this AI without being an expert of AI. This is number one. We use this technology, so we have AI embedded into this technology. Number two, as I said before, we are also using AI on top of this technology to provide additional detection mechanism. This is a second layer where AI is I would say, implemented. And the third one is kind of new. We're trying to augment the people, the experts we have with AI. We at Capgemini, we love to talk about operating model, and operating model or target operating model is always 3 dimension: human, process, and technology. So again, we're spending a lot of time on the technology. Still, we need to face the human question and the process question. And AI would help us, for example, in the process. You know that a lot of companies in the past has implemented what we call RPA, so kind of automation. And now we are talking about intelligent automation. So again, it's another example of AI in our SOC. We are trying to orchestrate and automate every action in the SOC to augment the human and the process. So the third layer or the third level of integration of AI is to augment the human and the process.
Yeah, taking a junior, security analyst and allowing them to utilize AI to, address multiple threats much quicker, with a much higher accuracy rate is definitely one of the best ways that AI I've seen is helping reduce, threat remediation time. So
yeah, and sorry to interrupt you, Nate. There is also something that I forgot to mention. To be very honest with you, the hackers has already understood the advantage of AI, so they are already using AI to to mitigate or to overcome some cybersecurity measure, like some MFA, multi-factor authentication technology, also to provide some brute force attack against any authentication solutions. So they're already using AI, and we know that to fight or to catch up with this new type of attack, we really need to use AI. So it's another reason also to use AI in our arsenal.
So this next question, we kind of answered it maybe a little bit in the previous questions, but why in your mind is AI the future of cybersecurity?
Maybe I'll take an example to answer to your point. I think in IoT, for example, AI will be quite important. We know that IoT is billion of sensors or devices, you call it whatever you want, but we will have a lot of objects interconnected everywhere. And these objects usually requires, of course, low performance, so you cannot execute an operating system with a lot of application and protection embedded into the device. So it's a very low footprint devices, low battery or low consumption regarding the energy. So it's a specific type of device, and you cannot use the conventional, I would say, approach to secure the IoT. And one of the one of the advantage of using AI in the IoT space is learning how a device is working. So it's kind of, again, learning the normal behavior of a huge population of devices or sensors. And because of this, you will be able to detect immediately, even if you don't have a specific security, I would say, countermeasure into the device or in the network, you will be able immediately to detect that something is going on. Because usually your camera, your access control, your sensor for, I don't know, temperature, whatever, they are not behaving that way. It's new. There is a new type of traffic. There is more volume or less volume, or they are exactly, I would say, communicating with the other part of the IoT or the other IoT component differently. So AI is key in that space because it will be quick to detect the problem. It will be automatic. No human to manage billion of events, because when we are talking about a billion or million of sensors, it means billion of events. So no human will be able to handle this traffic. So as an example, AI will be the best solutions to detect and to protect your IoT infrastructure.
Definitely. Kind of reminds me of Homer Simpson sitting in the control room at the nuclear power plant with a million buttons in front of him and not knowing what to do. And so maybe they should have replaced him with some sort of artificial intelligence there.
But it's a good example, Natty, because still there is a limit.
Yeah.
Still there is a limit because I don't think that our customers and even people and yourself, myself, will be very happy to see or to know that a machine is taking decision. Yep. So this is where we need to find the compromise between AI to detect, to be able to understand what happened in the system, but still with a human decision at the end of the process. So this is where we need to, to put the cursor at the right level between fully automated system and semi-automatic system with, as I said, with a human taking the decision. Because we all know that another example is airplanes. We know that there is a lot of computers, even AI into the to the airplanes. Still, we are very happy that there is a pilot into the airplane. So that's more or less a good example with the nuclear plant. Still, you have a lot of process, you have a lot of machines, computer programs, AI. Still, at the end, a human has to take the real decision. So that's the limit, maybe, of the AI for now, at least.
Yeah, yeah. How do you see zero trust evolving going forward? Is it more than just multi-factor authentication? Obviously we discuss SaaS or SASE, but yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, it's a good point because when people were embracing or adopting the zero trust approach, a lot of people were saying that the identity would be the new perimeter. So it's important in the zero trust approach, the identity and the authentication to make sure that you are what you are claiming to be. Identity is the foundation of zero trust. If not very comfortable with an identity of someone, don't give access to this identity. So identity will be key. So MFA, as you said, multi-factor authentication, is also very critical because it's one of the ways to make sure that you know who is behind the keyboard or who is behind the device. But it's not enough because as we know, today there is a way to bypass MFA, depending, of course, on the solutions. So we need to be a little bit smarter than just, enabling MFA for everything. I'm not saying that MFA is not a good answer. We need to enable MFA at least in zero trust. But one of the key aspects of zero trust maybe also is to adapt the level of security to the level of criticality of the data. So don't use the maximum of security, because usually maximum security means maximum of drawbacks, not easy to use. You need to authenticate many times. Maybe the system will ask you many times your identity, your password, your one-time password, whatever. So in Zero Trust, you trust no one. That's one principle. The second principle is identity is very important. But a third one, to make it convenient for the user, is to have a kind of adaptive cybersecurity approach for the Zero Trust. So again, as I said, if you are using your corporate laptop in the office, accessing to, I would say, non-critical data, why bothering you with a lot of cybersecurity measures? Mm-hmm. But if the same person is accessing to a critical data, not with his corporate laptop, from a strange location, maybe you should adapt the cybersecurity measure and ask more proof of who you are. So MFA is part of it. It's not enough. As I said, the cybersecurity should be adaptive, I would say. And it's a combination of tools, and MFA is part of it.
Got it.
Of course, as I said, then once you know who is behind the device, you need to control the access to every asset of your organization. It could be data, it could be application, whatever. So the next topic, I would say, above MFA would be conditional access, to make sure that you control the access to every asset all the time. But just to answer to your point, MFA is important, will be part of the equation to implement Zero Trust, but that's not the only one.
Definitely. There's a company called Zero Networks that was in one of our previous cohorts that I'd like you to take a look at. You might find them very interesting. They're
yes, thank you.
Out of Israel and getting some really great traction and tackle a lot of these issues. I guess, going back to identity access management, do you foresee any new kind of IAM tools to simplify the user experience?
It depends on the use case.
Yeah.
For example, multi-cloud, you know that now there is a large adoption of public cloud for many good reasons, scalability, elasticity, agility. So public cloud is key for a lot of our customers. And talking about identity and access management, when you have only one cloud provider, for example, it's easy. You can use, for example, Microsoft technology to authenticate your user, to do conditional access. But we know that for large enterprise, for example, the environment will be hybrid. So it's a combination of private cloud or on-premise plus public cloud, and the public cloud component will be multi-cloud. And this is where it's getting more complex, because you cannot leverage only one solution to authenticate and manage your user. So now there is kind of new startups. I know one, for example, in Israel called Silverfort. Their positioning is quite interesting. They use AI again to understand what you are doing with your identity and maybe detect any malicious behavior. But their main positioning is multi-cloud, is how you provide the same policy, the same way to authenticate people, and the same way to monitor the activity of every user in a multi-cloud and hybrid environment with, I would say, different type of application. Of course, if your applications are all web-based, it's easy to integrate, I would say, identity and access management solutions, but you have still legacy applications that are not HTTP-based or web-based. It's a different story. So again, in an ideal world, everything web-based, HTTP-based in the public cloud with only one cloud provider, identity and access management, it's easy. But unfortunately, that's not the real world. The real world is hybrid, multi-cloud with legacy application, a new web application with, why not, microservices, API driven. It's important. There is a lot of API everywhere. You need also to authenticate the request made through APIs. So it's complex. It's a complex world. And to answer to your point, I believe that there is a space for new startups and newcomers in cybersecurity to help us and our customers to provide a consistent policy and I would say identity and access management strategy across all this technology and platforms. So I think this is key, because otherwise we'll have some hole in your strategy, and maybe having heterogeneous system everywhere, you lose a kind of, I would say, end-to-end view or 360 degrees view of your identity and access management. So it's dangerous.
Definitely. Okay, now kind of switching topics a little bit. So when it comes to financial institutions, they're one of the most attacked industries in the world. Their advancements in cloud-based software and AI are providing customers with a safer and more convenient way to handle their purchasing and banking transactions. What are your thoughts on the new fintech security tools being used today?
I think, classically in cybersecurity, the approach was best of breed. Yep. So, when you talk to a cybersecurity experts or cybersecurity teams, they will use the best tool for a specific purpose, the best firewall, the best IDS, the best anti-malware, the best identity management, the best whatever. So that is what we used to call a best of breed approach. Mm-hmm. It's quite interesting, because from a technical standpoint, you have the feeling to have the best solution in place. And to be honest, to answer to your point, today I believe that in finance they have the best solutions, because they have the budget, they are mature enough, so they don't need to have better solution, I would say. Now the main problem they are facing is integration of every building blocks. I don't remember the exact number, but if you count the number of solutions in a bank or in an insurance or any financial institution, is hundred of different cybersecurity solutions. I'm only talking about cybersecurity solutions, not the other type of application. So it's one is this complexity of solution because of this best of breed approach. Second, there is also a trend. Even I know that the bank are not very, I would say, comfortable with this trend, but that's the way it is. It's software as a service, SaaS. Yep. A lot of cybersecurity vendors or service providers are providing their solution only in a SaaS version. So even if you are complaining, say, okay, I want only on-premise solutions, if you want to leverage some of them, you need to have a SaaS offer. So again, getting back to the complexity of having all these different solutions, there's also a complexity because of the different model or delivery model, SaaS, on-premise, infrastructure as a service too. So complexity, a lot of different solutions. So of course, integration of all these different solutions together to provide, and that's quite interesting for the CISO, for example, to provide a single pane of glass. It's a challenge. I still believe that to answer to your question, the real improvement now for mature companies like banks is to provide a real integration through standards, when there is standards, to provide this single pane of glass to the customer. I'll take a very simple example. You know that usually the CISO is providing, is in charge, of writing the security policy, I would say, of the company. Mm-hmm. But then what's next? And usually they want to have what we call kind of risk management approach or attack surface management solutions. So they want to have in a single pane of glass the risk they are facing. And this risk is dynamic. It's changing every day. Why it's changing every day? It's changing every day because new threat, but maybe new vulnerabilities in the system they have. And again, back to what I've said before, complexity, plenty of systems. Maybe it's very difficult for the CISO and for the cybersecurity team to have a complete view of the risk they are facing. Another example is even for Capgemini. Today, Capgemini is it's about 2,000 subdomain of Capgemini.com domain. 2,000. So you need to manage all these domains because they are the attack surface for the hacker. So you need to have again a kind of single pane of glass for the CISO and for the cybersecurity team, and it's a challenge, a real challenge. So long story short, as an answer to your point, I do believe that now the effort or the energy should be put in the integration and not in another tool, another solution, another additional solution. Maybe it could be a replacement of some solutions to adopt a best of suite approach. So instead of having 10 pure players, maybe one solution for these 5 topics, for example, could be a good approach. But again, integration, single pane of glass, risk management, that should be the next topic for this mature enterprise.
Sure. Yeah, I do not envy the role of being a CISO at a large financial institution. It seems like every year there's new regulations coming out that require them to implement new tools or disclose to their clients and their customers how they're safeguarding their information. And so basically their role really is to be the scapegoat when there is a breach. They get all the blame. So God bless those guys. They don't get enough appreciation. All right. So another question here. You know, we're kind of coming up on time, so wanted to ask a couple kind of fun questions. Do you ever envision a world where we are truly safe from online threats?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. I would say that the answer is no, definitely no. Not because I want to make my job still relevant for years, but I think that for one main simple reason, I still believe that the weakest link in the chain is the human. Yep. So we spoke a lot about technology in this discussion together. Technology, AI, zero trust, integration, API, single pane of glass, risk management. So a lot of technologies and process. Still, human is maybe the weakest link. What does it mean? It means that today, if a user is clicking on the wrong link in the email or in a web page, maybe you will face a ransomware problem, even if you have plenty of good solutions. Of course, we're supposed to have good protection in place. Still, you don't forget that attackers are smart. They adapt their attack to the context of the target. So they know which protection you have. It's not very difficult to find it. So again, the human is the weakest link. So I believe that if we don't fix this problem, and it's not easy to fix, but if we are not fixing this human problem, I would say, we will live in a not safe world for sure, for years. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think Valentine's Day might be the #1 day when phishing attacks actually make an impact at an organization.
I read today in the French newspaper, because you know that I'm based in Paris. I read that some hackers in Europe are trying to leverage the COVID-19 situation. So they're sending now SMS to smartphones, claiming that this is an SMS coming from the government because of the COVID situation or whatever. Because people will just click on the link, it's an SMS coming from the government about the COVID-19 situation. I need to understand what happened. I will click on the link, but they are not supposed to receive an SMS from the government about the COVID-19 situation. But just to tell you how creative and smart sometimes the hackers could be. So, and again, I can bet that maybe 50, 40, 60%, I don't know, of the people that will receive the SMS will click on the link.
Yeah, I think 90% of breaches are through phishing attacks. Something like that. And the security awareness training tools are often very ignored by employees. They need to find a better way to get people educated on what to click on and what not to click on, and reporting suspicious links. I mean, I get calls from the IRS and they say, you know, I have back taxes due and I'm going to be arrested, and there's a warrant out from IRS. It's fraud, and it scares you at the same time. So there needs to be a better way to tackle that aspect of the issue as well. So I guess final question. Well, I guess that kind of was the final question. You know, I asked you, you know, is there a way we could ever truly be safe from online threats? And if so, what would it take to get there? And security awareness training on a large scale. I feel like the government needs to do a better job of cracking down on some of these things as well. Cellular service carriers, especially, you know, they're you know, allowing these
Nate, yeah, you're right. And when I say, because maybe I should mention something else, when I say human is the weakest link, it's not only about the, you know, the end user opening an email or clicking on the link. It's not only this. I do believe also that for example, the CXOs in the company should be more aware of what is a crisis, what is a cybersecurity attack. Because it's not when you have a ransomware that is blocking all your IT, all your systems, that you should try to understand, oh, what should we do? What can we react to such attacks? So I think that we should do a better job here, and we should help our customers. And that's what we're doing with Capgemini, as we just opened a cyber range or crisis simulation center in Netherlands for Europe. And this space will be very specific to crisis management. So it's a nice place where we put the CXOs in situation. We have, for example, if it's you mentioned nuclear plant or a power plant, suddenly there's a cyber attack. What happened?
Yeah.
How you communicate, how you manage a crisis, how you evaluate the impact of the attack on your assets, different stuff, different you know, aspect of the crisis management. And again, I think that you should, as you explained, train your end user with security awareness program. This is for sure. You should also train your CXOs to manage, I would say, the crisis if it happens, that it will happen for sure at one point. And third, last but not least, you should also train more your security engineers. You know, very often I made a very short career in military space. I very often compare the cybersecurity engineers as soldiers, I would say, because they're trying to defend against an attack. And to be honest, today they are not special force. They are not trained, you know, every day to new attacks, to react. Because you know, when you are special force, you train almost all the year long, maybe for 1 day of operation or 2 days or 3 days operation. And I think that we should adopt this new, I would say, approach in cybersecurity. A lot of people, by the way, call it security chaos engine or engineering approach, SCE. So it means that you build your system saying that everything will fail. So that's quite interesting. Yeah,
definitely. Well, Luis, I think we're out of time. I just wanted to thank you very much for, you know, spending this time with me. It was very interesting to hear your thoughts on the space, and really looking forward to continuing conversations with Capgemini. I think there's a lot we can do with you guys going forward, and so much appreciated. Hope you have a great weekend, and thanks again.
Thank you so much, Nelly. Have a good weekend too.
All right, take care.